Good day, and thank you for tuning in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast. For all of our new listeners and viewers who are tuning in for the very first time, welcome to 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast. I'm Pastor Pope, and thank you for allowing us to come into your viewing environment. We are here every Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, scheduling permitted, to address whatever topics you might like to discuss, whatever issues of life you find challenging or that you find difficult to navigate. You may call every day on the T-Mobile call or text line at 267-992-1424. You can discuss careers, finances, entrepreneurship. You can discuss marriage, divorce, raising children, blending families, whatever's in your heart, whatever's on your mind. God is concerned about that which concerns you. So we are here in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast. As always, 3D is brought to you by Fiji Water, Earth's finest water. You may already know that Fiji water comes from Fiji. However, did you know that it is created by nature? It is untouched by man. It starts as a tropical rainfall which slowly filters through layers of volcanic rock. The water collects in a natural artesian aquifer where it is bottled right at the source, free from human contact until you unscrew the cap. Fiji Water, Earth's finest water, will be delivered right to your front door when you subscribe for delivery. And you'll save money at FijiWater.com. This is Earth's finest water. And for those of you who continue giving on the Give segment of our app at New Life Delaware, and those of you that have made a weekly or monthly commitment to support the broadcast, we thank you for your support and your commitment as we fulfill our commitment to God to be here to address whatever topics you might like to discuss, whatever issues of life you find challenging or that you find difficult to navigate. So if you know someone that is going through some difficulties, finding it difficult to navigate the challenges of life, continue to encourage them, I should say, because we've seen a significant increase in viewership as we have expanded the broadcast over the last 3 years. Continue to encourage and inspire your family, your coworkers, your colleagues, everyone you know to tune in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast. I'm going to address a communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that your children think that it is appropriate now that they are adults to call elders, seniors, by their first name. And you continue to explain to them that it is a sign of lack of respect and a reflection on the way that they were raised, the way you raised them. So, let me first of all say this. You know, I always refer back to the scripture. The Bible says, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they grow old, they won't depart from it. Doesn't imply that they won't depart from it for a period of time, but it does imply that they will return to what they know. Now, I am in full agreement with you, and I'm going to start by saying that your children are following what they believe to be acceptable in the popular culture that we live in. That it's okay when you become an adult to address anyone by their first name. You know, I am someone who I'm a baby boomer. I'm in my 60s, and I still call people who are older than I by their Mr. or Mrs. and last name. There's some things that we're not going to change because of the time in which we grew up, the time in which we were raised. The generation behind us has a whole different way of doing things. That doesn't make it correct. Now, some people will say, well, it doesn't make it wrong. Yes, it does. And I'm going to tell you the reason it makes it wrong. What your children don't understand is that when they call someone by their first name, they are indicating to that individual that they perceive themselves to be their peers. And the fact of the matter is, when they develop that habit, it's going to have an impact on the success of their career or the long-term success of their career. People are always going to, particularly of our generation, who are still in many cases, the decision makers who are still sitting in the C-suite, still sitting at the executive level. Now, I understand that there are a lot of young and up-and-coming executives, and that's a great thing, because we want someone to carry on our our business society, for lack of a better term. But that doesn't imply that just because you are having success that you can call someone else who is your senior, who is not your peer, by their first name. Because in the back of their mind, subconsciously, they're always going to say they are not my peer, and I will have to remind them of that at some point. Meaning, they may not do business with them, they may not hire them. If they work for them, they may not be promoted. It's going to have an impact on their career long term. And so we just have to do a better job of making decisions when we are of the millennial and the Generation X and the Generation Z. And, we have to understand how important it is to respect what someone has earned. Now, you might say, well, have they really earned, your children might say, well, have they really earned my respect? If they have accomplished success in life, they deserve the respect. And whatever those successes are, you give honor to whom it is due. The Bible tells us that. Give honor to whom it is due. And if someone, I will share, I had a lunch buddy who was in his 90s when he went home to be with the Lord. When he died and went to heaven, he was in his 90s. We went to lunch once a month. And even till the day he died, I called him Mr. because he was my senior, not my peer, even though we were friends. Even though his children are my age. His oldest son is 6 months younger than I am. His youngest son is a few years younger than I am. So I say all of that to say that was not something that I would ever do, is call him by his first name without adding Mr. or, in a woman's case, Mrs. in front of their name. Your children want to be adults. They are adults. And so they're following the popular culture. But they'll learn, because we all learn along the way how to navigate life, how to ensure that we can accomplish or maximize our success in life. So they're going to find that out. As far as you're concerned, this is not, if you know you didn't raise your children that way, and those are choices that they are making, those are their own decisions that they're making, it has no reflection on the way you are raised. The way you raised them. You raised them to be good people. You raised them to be respectful. And the reason I know that is listen, I didn't even have to have God reveal that to me. If you're asking this question, which you are, then it's because you're concerned, which demonstrates that is the way you raised them. You raised them to be respectful. You raised them to respect their elders. They choose to demonstrate a different behavior. However, you've raised them up in the way they should go, and when they grow old, they won't depart from it. And I'm not going to belabor the point, but I do need to say this, because I know there's a lot of listeners and viewers from the generation behind our generation. And so I want to say to all of our listeners and viewers, for those of us who are baby boomers or older, make certain that you continue to share with them the right thing to do. For those of you who are the generation behind us, we want to encourage you to change your philosophy from the popular culture to societal norms. We're going to continue to encourage you to do that, because what you're doing now is only detrimental. You might not realize it now, but it will definitely have a significant impact on your success long term, and eventually will have an impact on the success of your children, if you have children. If your children are going to pick up the same philosophy that you pick up if you don't teach them any different. And you can't teach them any different if you're not doing anything different. If we're just following what popular culture tells us is acceptable and that it is the new norm, then we're missing the societal norms. And when we walk outside of the societal norms, yes, we have freedom to do that. We have a right to do what we desire to do as long as it's within the law. However, we have to ask ourselves, what impact is it going to have on our long-term success? What impact will it have on my life or the quality of my life? How will it disrupt the quality of my life? It's those little simple things that we do that are going to enhance the quality of our lives, allow us to achieve success, experience the fullness of God, and maximize the fullness of God in all of our lives. It's the little things that we do. It's there's an old expression, an old adage, the devil's in the details. Well, the devil does exist there, where those little things are. The Bible says the little foxes spoil the whole vine. It's the little things that we do that are going to have an impact on our long-term success. So let's make certain that we are all trying to do every single day, that we're trying to do what's necessary to become the best version of ourselves that we can become. That's the first thing. The second thing is that we should be working every day to experience the fullness of God in our lives. Everything we do should mean something. Everything we do should lead to the fullness of God in all of our lives. And then once we experience the fullness of God, we have to maximize that. How can we maximize the fullness that God has placed before me? Am I being a good steward of what God places before me? Am I using it to bring him glory? Am I using it to impact lives? Am I using it to build a better generation? Those are the things we really should be focused on. And unfortunately, we've taken our eyes off the prize. Let's get back to the basics, and let's do what we know that God is acceptable to God, and that God would have us to do what he's purposed, appointed, and purposed for our lives. This segment of the broadcast is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest nationwide 5G provider at no extra charge. So if you are not currently a T-Mobile customer, you may call or text on the T-Mobile call or text line at 267-992-1424. We will move you over into our queue so that you can become a T-Mobile customer and experience America's largest nationwide 5G provider at no extra charge. Taxes and fees are included in your bill. And if you auto pay by attaching a credit card to your account, you will receive a monthly discount on your bill at T-Mobile, America's largest nationwide 5G provider at no extra charge. So, I indicated that our listeners and viewers who have made a monthly commitment, a weekly commitment, monthly commitment to support the broadcast, we thank you for your support. I'm going to ask you to expand your support at no additional cost to you. We have a partnership with T-Mobile, America's largest nationwide 5G provider at no extra charge. So if you're not a T-Mobile customer, that's the reason we want to place you into our queue so that we can maximize our sponsorship with T-Mobile. It is of no additional cost to you, but T-Mobile will continue to sponsor this segment of the Daily Divine Direction broadcast, 3D, from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Monday through Friday. We don't want you to miss it. Tune in, because you're going to see So many new things being added to our broadcast as we continue to move forward Monday through Friday, right here in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast. I'm going to address another communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that your husband has the most exhausting ego of anyone you would ever want to meet. It has become a real problem for you because it's so bad other people find it difficult to tolerate the ego of your husband. So first of all, let me say this. Your husband may not have the most exhausting ego, because I have heard from so many wives that their husbands are arrogant and ego, and it, presents some challenges for them. You say he's the most exhausting, he has the most exhausting ego of anyone that you'd ever want to meet. Here's the reality. First of all, he is not any different than the man you married. He is what he is. He's been the same way as long as you've been married to him. The problem is that his ego's become more exhausting. And the reason I'm saying that is because God allowed me to see in that secret place of your life, your husband's still the same man. He showed signs of this when you were dating. You decided that he was still the one you wanted to marry. When he asked you to marry him, you accepted. What's happened is that over the years of your marriage, the ego has become exhausting. And let me tell you what I've often said. I've even preached a sermon about this previously. Ego is edging God out. When we get to the point where we are consumed by our ego, we have edged God out of our lives. We have edged him out of the equation of our lives. And what that means is we've removed him. Little by little, our ego has grown, or in this case, your husband's ego has grown even more. He's had, you've been married for a number of years, and, the reality is that as his successes have grown, so has his ego. And every step of the way, every level of success that he has achieved, he's pushed God further out of the equation. Edging God out. That's the acronym for ego. Well, pardon me, ego is the acronym for edging God out. I want to say this, and I don't wish this on anyone, but pride comes before the fall. So the more that God blesses the two of you and your family, the more that God blesses you, and the more success your husband has, the larger his ego becomes. And the reason is because where God once existed, his ego has pushed God out. Removed him from the equation of your lives. And so now you're living with someone who people find it difficult to tolerate his ego. You've lost friendships because of his ego. Your family, his family tolerates him. Your family finds it necessary to tolerate him. And the truth of the matter is that because of each level of success, his ego has gotten larger. And that's why I say pride comes before the fall. Life happens to us all. The just and the unjust, the rich and the poor, life happens to us all. What I will say to you is that you're going to find it necessary to fervently pray for your husband. Pray that God will chip away at his ego so that there isn't a critical fall, but that he'll chip away at his ego. That God will remove the thoughts from his mind and help him to understand that it's not by his power nor his might, but by God's Spirit that he has been brought to this place of power that he now enjoys. You're going to have to pray fervently for him, that God will chip away little by little, that he'll remove the stony heart and replace it with a heart of flesh, that he will understand that it's by God's mercy, by God's grace, by God's mercy, and by God's blessings and favor that he is where he is today, and that he's been blessed the way he is today. But he's the man that you decided that you wanted to marry long ago. And he's no different today than he was then. His ego has just become more exhausting over the years. So you're just going to need to pray, because we don't want anyone to fall from a place so high that it's painful when they hit the ground. I've often said, it's not the fall that will kill us. It's that sudden stop that's so painful. God's not trying to destroy us. That's the enemy's method. God is not trying to set us up for failure. He just wants to bless us so that our lives can bring him glory. He just wants to pour out his favor so that the favor of God, the glory of God, brings God his glory. But you're going to have to pray for your husband, because you're his helpmate. You are the one who God has provided to help him through this. We all have to recognize how important humility is. Jesus walked the earth very humble, powerful, but humble. It's okay to have power, the power of God dwelling in us and living in us. It's okay to have power, the power of God, and still walk in humility. If anyone had a reason to have an ego or to be arrogant, Jesus made certain that the blind could see, that the deaf could hear, that the dumb could speak, that the lame could walk. He did all of those things, and yet he still walked with humility, understanding that it was because of the power of the Father in him that he was able to do all that God called him to do. We have to walk with humility so that we can demonstrate to others the importance of the power of God, not the power of ourselves. We have to walk with humility so that we can do what Jesus did, which is to bring God his glory. And if your husband really wants the blessings of God, if he thinks it's good now, wait until he puts God first in all that he does. When that day comes, he will exceed abundantly above all that he can ask or think, because God will use him to bring him glory. He just has to get there first. He has to stop removing God from his life and replacing God with his own ego. And if he does that, you're going to see even more blessings in your life. If he can replace that ego with humility, you're going to see more blessings in your life than you ever expected. Because it's only through the power of God working in your husband that he's been able to accomplish what he has accomplished to this day. This segment of the broadcast is brought to you by Charles Tyrwhitt, located in London, the UK. They also have stores in New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and at the King of Prussia Mall in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. So if you're in any of those areas, check their store hours, stop in at their retail stores. They have everything a man could possibly need. Shirts for men, ties for men, suits for men, and accessories. And right now, if you order shirts from Charles Tyrwhitt, you will receive 4 high-quality cotton shirts for $199. And they also have 2 high-quality cashmere sweaters on sale for $179.50 at Charles Tyrwhitt at ctshirts.com. And The White Company, located in London, the UK. They also have a store on Fifth Avenue in New York. If you're in New York, check their store hours. Stop in at the retail store. They have everything that you could possibly need. Home goods, clothing for men, women, and children. If you're not in New York, you can order from The White Company at thewhitecompany.com. Both companies will ship and deliver right to your front door in an appropriate period of time. I'm going to address another communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that work has been extremely intense the entire month, and you are finding it difficult to keep the pace. You want to know how can you ensure that you do not end the year behind where you need to be. So let me address this first of all. You're feeling a little bit overwhelmed right now. I get it. You're feeling, work has been intense, it's been exhausting, it's been overwhelming, and your company is really putting the push on because we are already halfway through the month. Okay. And then we have the holidays coming up. So that already eliminates a few other days from the month. I get it. We try to get a lot done before the end of the year. We try to wrap up everything before the end of the year so that we are prepared as we go into the new year. So right now you're preparing yourself. So PACE is an acronym for me. I do a lot of things in acronym, and the reason is because it allows us to expand the thought process. So PACE is being prepared. So you're going to have to really focus on less holiday activity and focus more on preparing yourself every day for what's to come in the following day. You're gonna find it necessary to do that for the remainder of the month. And then hold yourself accountable for everything that you're assigned to do and everything that you desire to accomplish. Hold yourself accountable for that. And then communicate. Communicate with your colleagues, communicate with your direct report. You communicate so that nothing slips through the cracks. And then execute. Everything that you desire to accomplish, take action for the remainder of this month. And I know, we've got Christmas Eve coming up, we've got Christmas Day coming up, we've got New Year's Eve coming up, and then it's New Year's Day, and then we are into the new year. So there's 3 days that are already going to be basically off the calendar for you the remainder of this month. And then the first day of the month is a holiday and we go into the new year. So most people are really, that lessens one day that we have to focus on business and work as the year begins. You've got to pace yourself so that you are ready to go into the new year and make the new year the most successful year that hopefully you've ever had in your life. I have a dear friend who's also part of my church, who he and I always talk about. We want every day to be a better day than the day before. We expect every week to be better than the week before. We expect every month to be better than the month before. And we want every year to be better, to progress. That's our expectation. It may not always be the experience. I talked about that on Sunday. But you want that to be your expectation. But we have to pace ourselves. We have to prepare. We have to hold ourselves accountable. We have to communicate with others to ensure that nothing slips through the cracks. And then we have to execute, take action to make certain that we accomplish everything that we desire. First of all, that everything that we need to accomplish and everything that we desire to accomplish. That has to be our goal.